top of George Street, you will see the derelict Royal York Hotel. Built in 1938, the hotel, renowned for its Art Deco styling, boasted a modern spiral staircase and a ballroom, both lit by glass skylights. The hotel was the height of fashion with wealthy tourists when opened, but with the advent of holidays abroad and some failed attempts at remodelling the hotel to appeal to younger guests, the Royal York finally closed in 2006. We are now entering Ryde town centre. Up until the 19th century, Ryde consisted of two small hamlets, Lower Ryde and Upper Ryde. A local gentleman named William Player came up with the idea of joining the hamlets with several new streets. Although William died in 1792, his idea of joining the hamlets came to fruition, and by 1830, Ryde was able to support a number of trades and had become one of the most fashionable seaside resorts in England. Ryde is now the largest town on the island and features some great family attractions, including a bowling alley, a cinema, amusement arcades, and an award-winning beach. Directly in front of us is All Saints, the parish church of Ryde. The building is a notable landmark, used for navigational purposes for shipping, as it projects beyond the skyline and is illuminated at night. It was designed in the Gothic style by architect George Gilbert Scott and was built between 1869 and 1891. The cornerstone was laid in 1869 by Her Royal Highness Princess Helena, third daughter of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. right, you will be able to see the entrance to Ryde Golf Course, which was relocated to this picturesque location in 1895. The footpath that runs through the middle of the golf course is known as Ladies' Walk and leads down to Binsted Beach and along to Holy Cross, a 13th century church which houses one of the original bells from Cor Abbey, having been salvaged from the debris of the abbey after Henry VIII had the monasteries destroyed as part of the Reformation. The Pope had refused to grant Henry's divorce to Catherine of Aragon, so Henry established the Church of England and had himself declared the supreme head. The bell still calls to service today. We are now passing through Binsted, site of a medieval quarry renowned for its high-quality white stone. The stone was used for many important buildings, including the White Tower in the Tower of London and Chichester Cathedral. We are now approaching the stop for Cor Abbey. You may be able to see the ruins of the original abbey through the trees on your right. This small Benedictine monastery was founded in 1131 and dissolved by Henry VIII in 1536, the name Cor being derived from the quarry in Binsted, from where the original stone had come. Further along on the same side of the road is the new Cor Abbey, home to a small group of Benedictine monks. Designed by one of the monks, Dom Paul Bello, and built by local workmen between 1907 and 1914, the abbey was built entirely from cheap Belgian bricks, showing that it was possible to build on a monumental scale with brick alone. Whilst Bello had designed monasteries and churches all across Europe and in Canada, Cor remains his finest work. The south grounds of this working monastery are open to the public. You can visit the abbey church and attend services. There is a tea shop and garden, a farm shop, a bookshop and an art gallery, and the resident pigs are also a firm favourite with visitors. The next stop is for Fishbourne Lane, which leads down to Fishbourne Village and Inn. The village is home to the Royal Victoria Yacht Club, founded in 1845 by Prince Albert and one of the premier racing clubs in the world during Queen Victoria's reign, with some of the finest and most competitive vessels of the time in its fleet. As we descend Kite Hill, we approach Wootton Bridge. The village is located amidst beautiful countryside, some of which bears area of outstanding natural beauty or site of special scientific impetus. The lovely Wootton Creek and Mill Pond provides a natural setting to the village, the creek being popular with yachtsmen and boaters. The Mill Pond is home to herons, egrets and kingfishers, while the surrounding countryside having red squirrels, foxes, badgers and dormice. The village has a mixture of both modern and older buildings, including the 11th century St Edmund's Church and the Sloop Inn in Mill Square. In 1969, Wootton was the location for the second of the 3 original Isle of Wight festivals, featuring artists such as Bob Dylan, The Who and the Moody Blues. stop is Wootton Station, terminus winning Isle of Wight Steam Railway. Here trains run through the 5.5 miles of ancient woodland and unspoiled countryside through Haven Street, which is the line's main station, and onto Smallbrook Junction, where connections can be made to Island Line trains. The line had originally been part of the main Ryde to Cowes route, which closed in 1966. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway was founded on the 24th of January 1971. Preserved stock was hauled by rail by the group's original locomotive Cowball, driven by volunteers from Newport to Haven Street Station. Within a few weeks, a limited service was being operated on the 1.5 mile section between Wootton and Haven Street. It has taken many years of voluntary effort to consolidate its position and provide the proper infrastructure to run and maintain the track and unique fleet in use today. stop is for Brittlesford Lodge Farm. Owned by the Griffin family since 1923, the working farm has a well-stocked shop. Top of the bill is their much sought-after milk, straight from their award-winning Guernsey herd, as well as luxurious clotted cream and butter, all made on site in their own farm kitchen. They also have their own butchery at the back of the shop, featuring a full range of specialist Isle of Wight meats, including Brittlesford veal, Cheverton Farm beef and lamb, Idlecombe Farm lamb, and Brown Rig poultry. Other local suppliers include the Isle of Wight Cheese Company, Oil of Wight, the Garlic Farm, the Tomato Stall, and Wild Island. The next stop is for Dawes Hill Farm Antiques Emporium, described as an Aladdin's cave by many. It is the island's largest and original vintage and antiques emporium, and is made up of 4 barns: the shop, the potting shed, the big barn, and the J-Teaks furniture barn, all of which are situated around a lovely old courtyard that contains lots of gardenalia. The Emporium is known for having a wide and eclectic range of items curated by 30 dealers, and has been visited by Antiques Road Trip on more than one occasion. As you travel around the island, you will notice a large number of copses, woods and forests. The total area of woodland cover is around 11%, of which 40% are ancient woodland sites, predating 1600. These wooded areas are often the richest in biodiversity. Islanders have an awareness of woodland issues because of close community ties and the very highly regarded red squirrel. Red squirrels are the only squirrel native to the British Isles. They are disappearing from the mainland fast, and are being replaced by the American grey squirrel. The Isle of Wight is an imhold, as the Solent provides a barrier to grey squirrels. Not only do grey squirrels outcompete reds for food and territory, they carry the deadly squirrelpox virus, which is fatal to the reds. It is illegal to bring a grey squirrel into red squirrel territory. The penalty is 2 years imprisonment or a £5,000 fine. If we avert our eyes from the recycling plant on the right, which recycles nearly 60% of the island's waste, and look instead to the left, we will shortly be approaching the entrance to Robin Hill Country Park. This park is the perfect destination for visitors of all ages. Set in 88 acres of beautiful countryside, the park provides fun, adventure and great family experiences, offering a fantastic blend of rides, adventure play and even falconry for fun-loving families and children, as well as relaxing woodland gardens, ponds and walks for discerning adults to enjoy. There really is something for everyone. you will see the Hare and Hounds pub. In 1737, a local woodcutter named Michael Morey was executed in Winchester and gibbeted here in Arreton for the murder of his orphaned grandson, James Dove. The following rhyme was popular with local children at that time. Michael Morey is dead for chopping off his grandson's head. He is hung on Arreton Down for rooks and ravens to peck down. The pub now has the gibbet, over 22 feet in length, as its main roof beam. We are now travelling across the top of Arreton Downs. The valley deep down to our right is the Arreton Valley. The chalkland is well known for its abundance of grassland plants, which in turn attracts and supports many butterflies, including the brown Angus and the chalk-hill blue. Looking out towards the far right, and visibility permitting, you may be able to see a cluster of 3 hills. The hill on the far left is St Martin's Down, overlooking Wroxall and Godshill. On the far right is St Catherine's Down, which overlooks the most southerly part of the island, at Blackgang and Rocken End. On its peak, you may be able to see a small stone structure. This is the second oldest lighthouse in Britain, and is known locally as the Pepper Pot. It was built in the 14th century by a local landowner as penance for scavenging wine belonging to the church from a shipwreck in Chale Bay. Finally, the hill in the middle, with the radar masts on top, is St Boniface Down, the highest point on the island. This was the location of RAF Ventnor, one of a number of radar stations dotted along the south coast during the Second World War, and the first to be built. Being the nearest station to occupied Europe, it was one of the most vulnerable, and came under attack on several occasions. We are now approaching the stop nearest the Isle of Wight garlic farm. With over 60 years of garlic growing experience, the owners have spent the years exploring the history and origins of garlic, making connections worldwide, and experimenting with the many different varieties here on the island. They have created a range of garlic-infused products, from garlic mayonnaise and chutneys, to black garlic beer, and even a garlic ice cream. The farm hosts a number of events and shows, offering delicious garlic-inspired grub. The farm also has holiday cottages and yurts available for rent. The lane to our right leads down to the village of Knighton, which is pronounced Knighton, to distinguish it from another village on the island, also called Knighton, spelled differently and without a K. This hamlet is a hotspot for ghost hunters, and is believed to be the most haunted place on the island. On the stroke of midnight on New Year's Day, it is said that ghostly laughter and music can be heard from the site of the former manor house. There have also been reported sightings of a headless horseman riding up the lane. Ahead of us now is Ashy Down, on the top of which is a 3-sided sea mark, built in 1735. It was used to calibrate ships' navigational instruments when they came out of Portsmouth Harbour, which you may be able to see over to the left. This also used to be the location of a semaphore station, one of 4 on the island, which would relay ships' movements and positions to the Admiralty in Portsmouth Dockyard. We are now entering Brading Downs Road. There are no allocated stops along this stretch of the journey, but if you wish to leave the vehicle, please press the bell and the driver will drop you off in a safe location. If you wish to reboard the bus along this road, please stand in a safe place and indicate to the driver by holding out your arm. Morris dancers have taken their name from this area and have a splash of blood red on their faces to signify the history of their name. As we continue along Brading Down, you will get a panoramic view of the island and beyond, visibility permitting. Behind us now you will be able to see the Ashy Sea Mark, East Cowes and Great Coomley Wood. To our left you can see the gateway town of Ryde, with beautiful views of the Solent, the mainland and the Spinnaker Tower. Straight ahead you will see Culver Down, for many years used as a military zone and closed to the public. The monument at the end of the down is a memorial to Charles Anderson Pelham, 1st Earl of Yarborough and founder of the Royal Yacht Squadron in Cowes. Looking across the coastline to the right, you will see the impressive view across the towns of Sandown and Shanklin. The bay here is used as a shelter by large vessels against strong winds and high waves. Looking further round, you will be able to see the many downs to the south of with Shanklin Down on the coastline, and St Martin's, St Boniface and St Catherine's Downs in the background. Further along Brading Down Road, there is a large viewpoint car park on your right. Here you can have a picnic or ice cream on top of the down, or just go for a walk and enjoy the remarkable scenery. The next stop is for Agiston Vineyard, a 10-acre site, with sea views, located a short walk from the bottom of the valley. Agiston is one of the oldest working vineyards in the UK, and a producer of award-winning wines. You can take an audio-guided tour of the vines and the subterranean cellars, followed by a personal wine tasting. You can buy local produce in their farm shop and watch live acoustic music every weekend during the summer. We are now approaching the stop for Brading Roman Villa. The villa was discovered in 1879 when a local farmer struck a buried mosaic floor whilst digging holes for a sheep pen. A museum now preserves the West Range, built around AD 300, which is the last and grandest of 3 buildings on the site. The foundations of 2 earlier North and South Ranges are now outlined in chalk outside. The South Range was erected around AD 100, not long after the Roman invasion of Britain in AD 43, and was followed by the completion of the grander North Range around AD 200. Since its rediscovery, the villa and surrounding land have been excavated many times. Using artefacts and archaeological reports, the museum will take you on a tour from prehistoric times up to the modern day. We are now travelling through Moreton Common. We will soon be passing under a low railway bridge and would like to remind passengers on the top deck to remain seated whilst the vehicle is in motion. We are now entering the outskirts of Sandown. Sitting on the southeast coast of the Isle of Wight and sheltered in a beautiful bay, it is famed for its long stretches of golden sandy beach and the traditional British seafront and pier. Sandown also has a great selection of attractions, including Sandown Gardens, the Isle of Wight Zoo, housed in a historic fort, and Dinosaur Isle, a purpose-built interactive dinosaur museum. In 2019, Sandown Beach won Beach of the Year in the BBC Countryfile magazine awards. They called it a traditional bucket and spade beach, with miles of golden sand, pier and eclectic seafront, and just a short walk to peace, fossil-rich cliffs and stunning coastal wildlife. The next stop is Sandown High Street. This is where you can leave the bus to explore the town, pier and beach. The pier was opened in 1879 and provides all year-round family entertainment. It has indoor golf with special lighting and sound effects, 10-pin bowling and a small children's play area which specialises in children's birthday parties. The end of the pier has rides for all the family, including dodgems, a snake slide, ball walkers, quad bikes and teacups. As we turn into Sandown seafront, you will get a wonderful view of the award-winning sandy beach. In front of us is the White Culver Cliff, and on the far side of which is Culver Battery, built between 1904 and 1906. It was operational in wars, protecting Sandown and the approach to Portsmouth. We will shortly be approaching the stop for Sandown Gardens, which features an open-air bounce park, a dinosaur-themed mini golf course, electric go-karts and refreshments. We are now coming up to the stop for Dinosaur Isle. For nearly a century, the Museum of Isle of Wight Geology was housed above Sandown Library and held the island's geology and fossil collections. In 2001 this changed with the opening of Dinosaur Isle, a purpose-built interactive museum. The new museum was designed by local architect Rainey Petrie Johns in the shape of a giant pterodactyl, housing showcases, rock reconstructions and full-size fleshed dinosaurs. The next stop is for the Isle of Wight Zoo. Situated in the ruins of a Victorian fort, built in 1861 to guard the bay from a perceived French invasion, the zoo is a family-run establishment with a specialism in big cats. In 2017, the zoo became part of the Wild Heart Trust, a charity founded to secure a long-term future for the zoo and enable it to fulfill its global ambitions to make an impact on the health of the natural world, whilst also improving the well-being of animals in human care. The zoo is committed to providing a lifelong, loving home to rescued big cats and other animal residents, and the team work holistically to ensure each individual has an enriched and meaningful life. The cliffs of Culver, ahead of us, are steeped in myth and legend. One such legend speaks of a local church, whose well contained water so remarkably fresh it did not go off, even on long sea voyages. Near the well stood an engraved stone cross, whose message proclaims, "While the water flows pure and free, Wolverton shall happy be. The net be heavy in the sea, and wheat and seed shall yield plenty. When stains of blood burns the well, then Culver's net shall ring its knell." A devilish hermit that lived in a cave on the cliff, later believed to be a portal to hell, convinced the locals that a stranger would come and poison the well. Fearful of having the water contaminated, locals murdered a visitor whose blood spilled into the water. Almost immediately after, the area was invaded by the French, who pillaged, plundered and burnt the town and church to the ground. There is indeed a cave in Culver Cliff, as the legend states, although this is not largely believed to be a portal into hell, but instead is known locally as the Hermit's Hole. We are now travelling through Yaberland, and over to our right is Yaberland Manor. The original manor was mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086, and was later reconstructed in 1620 into the fine Jacobean manor that it is today. In the foreground is the parish church of St. John the Baptist. Originally a private chapel for the manor, it was built in 1150 to save the family the arduous journey to attend the nearest church in Brady. Coming up on the left is Bembridge Airport. The airport opened in 1920 and obtained its license to operate in 1921. By 1934, Spartan Airlines started up the first airline service here, and during the next 5 years, popularity of the airport grew, with services operated by Portsmouth and Southsea, Isle of Wight Aviation, and Channel Air ferries. During World War II, the airport was stood down and closed, and the landing area was obstructed by ditches to prevent its use in the event of invasion. Just after the war in 1945, sadly the aviation world had changed, and the pre-war passenger services were not restarted. However, the airport remained active for local enthusiasts. We are now approaching the stop for Culver Down. A short walk up Peacock Hill will bring you to the top of the down, which is home to a number of unusual ant species, with some unusual and unpronounceable Latin names. The public parts of this prominent headland are owned and managed by the National Trust, and afford stunning views of the English Channel. The poet Algernon Charles Swinburne said in a letter that he had climbed the hills at 17 in order to prove his manhood to his family after they refused to let him join the army. For many years the whole site was a military zone and not open to the public. There are several historic military features on the down, as well as a number of private dwellings, the Culverhaven pub, and the very visible Yarborough Monument. The military barracks that had adjoined the monument are now almost completely erased. However, there is a pond. The next stop is for Whitecliff Bay. In 1545, a fleet was intercepted crossing from its beachhead at Whitecliff Bay to attack Sandown by local levies under the command of Sir John Oglander, and a skirmish was fought on the down. There are several footpaths that will lead you down to the bay itself, consisting of around 500 metres of well-exposed sands and several cafes. The next stop is for Bembridge Windmill, which is a short walk from the bus. It was built in the early 1700s, when Bembridge was almost an island in its own right, until the 1880s, when Brading Haven was drained. The arrival of the railway bringing cheap flour meant that from 1897 onwards, only cattle feed was produced, and by 1913 the mill had operated for the last time. By the following harvest, the men had gone off to fight in the Great War, and the mill never reopened. When the artist J.M.W. Turner visited in 1795, he began a watercolour of the windmill, showing the sea lapping at the bottom of the hill on which the mill stands. A copy of this unfinished painting can be seen in the windmill kiosk. As the only surviving windmill on the island, Bembridge Windmill is an important part of the island's heritage and is in the care of the National Trust. We are now travelling through Bembridge, which is the largest village in England, with a population of over 4,000. In 2019, Bembridge was honoured to win the BBC Countryfile magazine award for Village of the Year. They called Bembridge a wonderful coastal setting with a pier and lifeboat station, plus a busy village community with independent shops, cafes and restaurants. With 3 great beaches and the White Cliffs of Culverdown on the doorstep, the village is a perfect base for exploring. we descend the hill past the Pilot Boat Inn, we see the wonderful views of Bembridge Harbour. The harbour is a site of special scientific interest, and nearby Brading Marshes are home to the first RSPB site on the island. The harbour is the remains of the much larger Brading Harbour, which extended 2 miles inland, until sea walls were built from 1338 to reduce its size. The final enclosure was built in 1879, resulting in the harbour boundaries that we see today, and St Helens and Bembridge were linked by rail and road. Houseboats have been a feature of Bembridge Harbour for many years. After World War II, 12 personnel landing craft arrived in the harbour. Built locally at St Helens, not all of them saw action. Though many have rotted away, there are still a few remaining, including a motor torpedo boat and a historic motor gunboat that had been awarded a wartime medal. Some of these houseboats are now available for holiday let or bed and breakfast accommodation. Coming up on the left is the site of St Helens Station. The station opened in 1882 and was the only intermediate station on the Bembridge branch. It has a single 232-foot long platform located on the downside of the line. A signal box at the station controlled a short branch down to St Helens Quay at Brading Harbour. The quay served the main commercial docks on the island until Medina Wharf near Cowes was rebuilt in 1928. The loss of goods traffic and a decline in passenger numbers saw the line close in 1953. village of St Helens was developed around its village greens, which are claimed to be the largest in England, although some say only the second largest. The greens are often used for cricket matches during the summer and football in the winter, and also include a children's playground. The village is a short distance from the coast, about a 10-minute walk to the beach at St Helens Dover. The next stop is for the Dover, once the location of one of England's first golf courses, and which for a while was almost as famous as the golf course at St Andrews in Scotland. It is now a popular beach for tourists during the summer season and is protected by the National Trust. The next stop is for Nodes Point Holiday Park. The road to the park leads on to Priory Bay Hotel and Priory Bay, recorded as the second oldest site of human habitation in the United Kingdom, and one of the most important Lower Paleolithic sites in the country. Several artefacts, including hand axes, have been found on the bay's sandy shores, dating back over 345,000 years. Just coming into view on the left is St Helens Church, built in 1717 to replace the original church on the Dover that was left to the elements after church stones were stolen and sold off by local parishioners. The derelict church was painted white in 1719 and used as a sea mark. It continues to fulfil this duty to this day. The new church on the hill retains some interesting old gravestones set into the floor and a George I coat of arms. entering the small village of Nettleston, and a short walk to the beautiful neighbouring village of Sea, host to many independent shops and fantastic views of the Solent and the Palmerston Force. This corner of the island has a microclimate, which encourages shrubs to bloom nearly all year round. Wildlife includes red squirrel colonies, badgers, foxes, and a wide variety of seabirds and waders, including herons, egrets and grebes, to name but a few. The next stop is for the Isle of Wight distillery. Using ethically sourced and local natural ingredients, this is the island's first and only distillery, fine range of premium spirits, including a Navy strength gin, produced under special licence with an alcohol content of 57%. The Mermaid Bar is the perfect spot to relax by the log fire, sample the collection, watch the stills in action, and hear the stories behind the brands. We are now travelling through Aptley, from where you can follow a footpath down to Aptley Beach. Perfect for families with young children, there is a playground, a fully licensed cafe, well-equipped toilets, and a lovely sandy beach on which to build sandcastles. There's a pushchair and wheelchair-friendly walk along the shore, and if you want to bring your dog, the sea view end of the beach is dog-friendly. If you are a keen bird watcher, then you will find sanderlings, gulls, egrets and cormorants among the species seen on Ryde's beaches. We are now at the top of East Hill Road. A former resident of this area was General Sir Samuel James Brown, a British Indian Army cavalry officer who is best known for his namesake invention, the Sam Brown belt, which he developed after losing an arm in battle. He was a British recipient of the Victoria Cross for his service in India, and upon retiring from the army in 1898, he relocated to Ryde and died here at the age of 76. We are now travelling along Ryde Esplanade, with its views of the Solent, mainland Britain, and the concrete sea forts built between 1865 and 1880 as defences against French invasion. Ryde's Pier is the oldest pleasure pier in the UK, and is an impressive 681 metres in length. Built from 1814 onwards, it is actually 3 piers in one, with the main pier, the former tramway pier, and the railway pier all built side by side. Ryde Seafront has much to offer the whole family, with long stretches of sandy beach, a 10-pin bowling alley which is housed partly in a 1920s listed building and which is a rare demonstration of cast iron seaside architecture, Peter Pan's playground, a bowling green, a swimming pool with retractable roof, and many bars, restaurants and souvenir shops.